Support for podcasts comes from Milwaukee School of Engineering Center for Professional Education, offering courses in AI machine learning, project management, and more. Program information at msoe.edu/CPE.
March is around the corner, which means it's almost nesting season for barred owls. You might know the raptor for its iconic hoot, which sounds a bit like "Who Cooks for You?" For the second year, the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center will give people a look into the lives of barred owls with a Nest Box camera. Lindsay Foch is the Raptor Program Director at Schlitz Audubon. She says the live stream is part of the Nature Center's Barred Owl Monitoring Project. Foch joins Lake Effect's Excret Nunez to share how people can watch online as owlets hatch this spring.
So for this episode of Chirp Chat, I wanted to learn about the Barred Owl Nest Cam that'll be going live soon. But before we dive in, I was wondering if you can tell me about the barred owl and describe what it looks like.
So the barred owl is a Wisconsin native species. It's a medium to large-sized owl. It is a tuftless owl, which means that it doesn't have those feather tufts on the top of its head. It's perfectly smooth. And in coloration, it is gray, whitish, with these dark vertical streaks on its chest. You can typically find barred owls in forested habitats, usually with older trees, older stands, and they also prefer wetlands and areas that are close by a pond or some kind of like standing water, primarily because of one of their favorite food sources, which are fish and crayfish. And then barred owls are a year-round resident of Wisconsin. So when they have set up a territory in our state, they stay there for almost the rest of their lives.
So the Nest Box Cam went live in March of 2025 last year. How did this project even come about in the first place?
Yeah, so the Nest Box camera that we've live streamed actually is kind of one branch, if you will, of Schlitz Audubon's larger barred owl monitoring project. That is a project that I work on with a wonderful partner, Dr. Bill Stout. We have been working on that since 2021, actually. So we found this new pair of barred owls that were in an area for the first time probably in decades, and it's in the Milwaukee area. So we decided we have a great opportunity to study the behavior and the habits of these wild owls in an urban setting. And so being able to look into this kind of extra special secret aspect of their lives and the nesting behaviors was one thing that kind of developed from this monitoring project. And then we found ourselves in the position where we could share it with the public last year.
Wow, that's amazing. So they've been here a while.
Yeah, a handful, right? It's been 5 years since their first sighting. Both of the birds are approximately 7 years old now.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, why barred owls, but it seems like the opportunity kind of presented itself.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And in this particular case, we're studying the habits of an owl species that there's not a lot of research done on. There is some, but especially in an urban habitat, there aren't a lot of studies out there right now that are published. And it gives us this great opportunity to figure out their land use, how they may change their territory size as the seasons go, their preferred diet, and then also, as equally as important, how well they play nice with others. It's made a lot of headlines that out in the Northwest, there's some issues with barred owls encroaching on the spotted owl habitat and territory. So they're trying to figure out the best way to manage that. But what they found in those studies and following those populations is that in the Northwest, the barred owls have come through and, lack of a better term, they're bullying all the other raptor species. But then what they found in the Southwest is that the barred owls are playing nice with their neighbors and they can cohabitate in the same areas as other raptor species. So that personally also kind of piqued my interest with what do we see here in Wisconsin? And we found in the study for the last 5 years that this pair plays nice with others. They have great horned owl neighbors, they have red-tailed hawk neighbors, Cooper hawk neighbors, and everybody is doing very well.
Love to hear that. Yeah. And so how did you know where to place the nest box for Betty and Maverick?
That's a fantastic question. And so what we ended up doing is we just spent a lot of time walking and just trying to figure out where do the birds spend their days, where are they most active, and where are they congregating, and kind of just noticed that the female barred owl was seen in a particular area a lot. Neither of these birds, they had not nested yet. And so we thought, well, we can just try to provide this opportunity for them if they're looking for a nesting spot. And so we hoped for the best, and we got successful, and we're grateful for that.
Research, context clues, and luck.
Exactly, which is like, part of everything, right? It's part of it.
And I just wanted to clarify too, can people set up their own nest box, or is this more of a researcher's job?
Oh, anybody can do it. And
really?
we encourage people to. If they want to try to invite owls to their property, there are nest box plans that people can find online. They can even contact us here at Schlitz Audubon. We can send them nest box plans, and you can put it up on your property in hopes to bring owls to you. And owls are wonderful neighbors. I like to tell people is that a family of owls can consume up to 10,000 rodents in a year.
Wow.
So they're great rodent control, and they also help kind of keep that balance of predator and prey out in the environment. So bring them in.
Absolutely. And so the pair you've been observing, Betty and Maverick, you said that they've been nesting in the Milwaukee area about 5 years. How can you tell which owl is a male and which is female?
In general, all of our owls are going to look the same. If you see a barred owl sitting out on a tree, you won't be able to tell the difference. The way that I have just come to be able to identify them is spending a lot of time with them, and of course all the in-depth studying of them. So their facial patterns look just slightly different to me because I've watched them for so long. Their vocalizations are different. There's certain things like Maverick has an additional descending syllable in his hoots when he's communicating to Betty to tell her that he has a mouse for her or something. Betty, on the other hand, she's the queen of the forest, and she will do long, loud, single-syllable hoots at things that are bothering her. If a deer walks by, she will just do one loud hoot, and so I know it's Betty kind of just letting people know she's around.
That's incredible. I love that you know all this. It's so cool. How do you know they'll nest here again every year?
So our owl species, it's a natural behavior of theirs to have site fidelity. So they will return to the same nest or the same cavity every single year for our barred owls. So they come back midwinter every single year to check it out and rearrange some things and make sure that the same box is appropriate for next season. So we can reliably guess that they'll continue to come back. And it's not the same for other owls. Great horned owls, for example, won't use their own nests. What they do is they find red-tailed hawk nests or crow nests from last spring, and they'll just use it.
Okay, and recyclers.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty smart, very resourceful.
That's really interesting, which kind of leads me to my next question is, do barred owls build the nest inside their nest box? And if so, what materials do they use?
So they will not bring nesting materials to a cavity, but rather they will pick a cavity that is proper for them. But what they're really looking for is an appropriate hole in a tree that is big enough for them and their young, that's also protected from any potential predators.
So safety is a key thing for them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was wondering if you could walk me through the breeding season of a barred owl. How long is the process between building a nest to raising an owlet to be on their own?
So what we have found in studying Betty and Maverick is that mid to late winter, the two come together and really just solidify their bond. They're hooting together, duetting together, and reestablishing their territory, and then checking out their nest box or their cavity options. Egg laying occurs in mid-March. What'll happen is the female, she'll occasionally stop by the cavity and check it out and kick up the substrate and just make sure that it's kind of nice and cozy. And the duration of time where she's sitting will increase every day. And then suddenly she'll leave the box and there's an egg there. Owls will lay eggs at intervals. So there's 2 to 4 days between each egg that's being laid. Those eggs are then incubated for approximately 30 days. It's about a month. The eggs will hatch in that same order, and in approximately another month, the young will fledge or leave the cavity and take those first very brave leaps out onto the nearby branches. So Dr. Stout and I, we really start gearing up in November and keeping an eye on things and watching their behaviors and starting to collect more data. And then the young thus far have showed us that they will disperse from their parents' home territory around July or August, giving Betty and Maverick a good 4 to 5 months to rest until next year.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
And how many eggs are typically laid?
In a typical clutch for barred owls, it can be from 1 to 3 eggs. For our study subjects, they've had 3 successful nesting seasons, so we're going into our 4th. The first year, they had 2 successful chicks. The second year, they had 3, and then last year, they had 2. So they're kind of just like, that's like a good average for them.
And it is just 1 breeding cycle per year.
You are correct. For our barred owls, it's 1 breeding cycle per year, and that's not the case necessarily for others. Barn owls, for example, will keep clutching and laying eggs as frequently as possible.
That's really interesting. I'm Lake Effects Excret Nunez speaking with Lindsay Foch from the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center about their barred owl nest box camera. So I'd really love to learn more about the habits of a barred owl. I'm wondering, how does the female, in this case Betty, eat if she has to be incubating the eggs?
That was something that I really enjoyed learning from Betty and Maverick, in that while she is incubating, Maverick will do a lot of the hunting. What he does is he'll occasionally bring her food while she's incubating in the box, but more often he will return to the area where the box is and he will call to her. And she will actually leave the box to then go and retrieve food from him. She usually leaves on her own anyway if she has to relieve herself. She doesn't want to get the box messy. Once the eggs hatch and there's so many more mouths to feed, Maverick will come to the box more frequently. So she does not have to leave the freshly hatched chicks as often. And that's always really fun to see too, is kind of like a family portrait. Yeah.
Love that. And that makes me wonder too, is like, how does the feeding situation work? Like, how do they feed their young if they tend to eat bigger fish or mammals or,
It's really captivating. So an adult barred owl can have a large bird and swallow it whole. Wow. But your little babies, they need some help first. So what'll happen is that Mom, and in this case it's Betty, she'll have a prey animal and she will actually tear it into tiny little bite-sized pieces. The baby's eyes do not develop until they're maybe 2 or 3 weeks old is when they start to like open their eyes. So until then, she has these tiny little shreds of the meat where she will actually meet her beak with the baby's beak and place the food in the baby's mouth. And as the babies then are getting older and bigger, closer to the 3 to 4 week mark, Betty will actually leave whole prey items for these tiny little babies. Wow. And it's really something to see this tiny little puffball, right? That's like the size of maybe not even a cantaloupe, is swallowing this vole that's almost as big as its own head, and it swallows it whole.
Wow.
Yes, yeah. It's really something.
It's really incredible the way you described that she like shreds their food for them.
Yes, yeah. Just like human mothers, right? And we're going to cut it into bite-sized pieces, but she'll do the same. And one thing that we've observed with Betty as well is that when she has multiple offspring, she will actually ensure that each one is getting the proper amount of food, which is really cool to see too, that she'll make sure that like one is fed, stuffed and sleeping, and then she'll give the time to the other one to make sure that they have enough food too.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering too, like, how do the parents help owlets get ready to fly once it's time to leave the nest?
Yeah, because it's not necessarily inherent, and it can be pretty scary. So what we've observed is some of these hatchlings, some of these babies, when it's time, they are ready. Like they are amped, they are antsy, they're doing all their stretching and they're flapping in the nest and there's dust everywhere and they are ready to go. So there's not a lot of coaxing that is needed for some of these owlets. Others, though, are a little bit more nervous and they need a little bit more encouragement, from mom or dad. So what Betty will do is she will sit outside the box. The female will sit outside the cavity in a nearby branch, calling to the baby, and often with a mouse or something to try to entice it to come out. But in each case, each owlet has successfully fledged. And in a way, like Betty's kind of let them go at their own pace, but she does her part in trying to give them that courage to jump.
And is that something that people can watch from the camera?
Yes. So something that was one of my favorite parts of 2025 in our live stream with the public was that the first hatchling fledged very, very easily. And we were all cheering it on, and we were so excited and because they jump up into the hole, the entryway, the doorway. And, and all of us are like, is it going to happen? Is it good? Is it? And they take the leap or they back out, and it can take days. And it's, and so we get to see the whole process through this live stream. So for this season, for 2026, we will go live with it when Betty is starting to show signs of egg laying. And so that will be announced on our website, on our socials, even through our e-newsletter, so people can sign up so that they can get these updates of our progress with it. And we will stream it all the way through when the chicks finally fledge and they have left the box. One question that we received a lot of last year is, do the babies ever return? And they do not. So once they take that first leap, they're out of the box.
That's incredible. And so they go on and
they just
live their life.
Yeah.
And listening to you talk about this makes me think like anyone tuning in, seems like there's activity anytime, right?
Yeah, well, and barred owls are just proving to us that they are defying norms. They're defying our norms. So a lot of times when people think of owls, they do think of these nocturnal birds in most cases. And that is a lot very true for like our great horned owls and even screech owls. But barred owls actually tend to be active, of course, mostly at night, but they're still active during the day.
And now that we've talked a lot about barred owls, I'm curious if there are any other owl species that breed in Wisconsin.
So there are a number of owl species that breed in Wisconsin and that are year-round residents. And so that would include the great horned owl, of course the barred owl, screech owl, and then northern saw-whet. And then most of our other owl species that we see are migrants. So we'll see snowy owls in the wintertime, or long-eared owls, short-eared owls, if we're very lucky for a great gray. But these birds will come in during the winter and then leave, go back up north for their breeding grounds.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So what can people do to keep owls safe and protected here in Wisconsin?
So as we discuss this, a very important role that owls play out in the environment is keeping that balance between predator and prey. They're also an indicator species, and so if something's wrong out in the environment, it can change their population, and then it can be an indication to us that something's going on. So we want to do everything we can to protect our owls. One thing that's happening right now is loss of habitat. A lot of our owl species are these cavity nesters, and they need holes in trees. And those are becoming harder and harder to find. So like we discussed, we're encouraging people to put up nest boxes if they think that there might be an owl in the area, to encourage owls to come in and have that habitat to nest on. Another very, very large thing, we don't like rats or mice around our homes. So some people are putting out rat poisons. What happens is that a rodent will consume that and it slows the rodent down. So it becomes a really easy meal for an owl. So an owl will then swallow that mouse whole, unfortunately then ingesting the poison on its own. So we encourage people to not use the poisons, don't use rodenticides. But again, if you have a nest box, you can invite the owls. They'll do the work for you. You can put out live traps. You can come up with more humane ways to take care of your rodent population so that we can protect all of the wildlife that's out there.
Right. Welcome a new neighbor. So if people are walking around birding and they come across an owl, what can people do to safely observe owls?
That's a fantastic question because we have more owls out there than I think a lot of people are aware of. It's just that they're hiding during the daytime. So if anybody is out and they're lucky enough to be able to come across an owl, I think the most important thing is that you keep your distance. Don't make noises at it to try to get its attention. Respect its space, and then just acknowledge like you're there as an observer. So if they turn to look at you, if they open their eyes widely at you or start moving, you're too close and you should just slowly back away.
They're masters of blending in.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. And often when it comes to owls, that's how you locate them, is by hearing them rather than finding them and seeing them.
Well, Lindsay, we've reached the end of Chirp Chat, but before we wrap up, I always love to ask guests to shine a spotlight on a bird for the month, in maybe this case, a raptor. So what's a bird or a raptor you'd like to highlight this month?
I mean, it goes without saying, our feature bird for the month would be the barred owl.
And we have a barred owl with us today.
We do. Our wonderful Perseus is our raptor ambassador barred owl who lives here at Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. And Perseus was hatched out in the wild in 2018. Unfortunately, a storm came through and knocked her nest over when she was just a little owlet. But because of her exposure to people during that very young time, she unfortunately imprinted on humans. Would you like to meet her?
Yeah, I would love to meet her. Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
So as you can see, Perseus, she's a medium to large owl, our barred owl. The coloration just helps them blend in so very well as they're sitting out in a tree. They're perfect for to be a resident raptor. She's so fluffy, she just looks like a big fluffy potato. But what I like to tell, especially kids, because they can relate to it, is that our owls that stay here throughout the winter, it's like they're wearing their winter coats all year round. So that thick layer of feathers will keep them warm when it's cold outside.
Thank you both so much for being here today and telling me more about the wonders of barred owls and this amazing Nest Box camera project. I'm really excited for people to check it out.
Oh, and thank you for having us and featuring the box as well. We're very, very excited that we can bring it to the community and get people engaged with it and this wonderful, intimate look into nesting owls.
Lindsay Foch is the Raptor Program Director at the Schlitz Audubon Nature Center. She spoke with Lake Effect's Excret Nunez. To learn more about the barred owl live stream, visit schlitzaudubon.org.